Scarefest Radio is sponsored by Blue Leaf Naturals, CBD and hemp oil products. Created with care from seed to shelf. BlueLeafNaturals.com. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being. Find them on Facebook. MECHANIX. And by Coyote Chris Sutton, bringing light to the darkest places. CoyoteChris.com.
The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Abby, do you remember that night? Tell me what happened.
We all went into the woods. You and me and Caleb. And then you and me went for a walk together in the woods.
After that, what happened after, Abby?
We saw something in the trees.
We didn't see anything. You were alone.
Riker, you were there. You were right next to me.
Abby, I wasn't there! You were alone. What did you see?
I'm moving forward down a path. There's a light, but I can't see past the light. And I'm getting close to something big. It's a shadow, and I can't quite make it out at first. But then I see it.
And hello everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Radio. The original broadcast date is February 8th, 2019. Our guest tonight is Mr. Brian Cunningham of Thoughtfly Films, the writer and director of Wretch. Fresh out on just all kinds of stuff. Let's see here. It's out, it's on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, and apparently there's a Blu-ray out. And so if the whole thing, here's your intro for the movie. In an attempt to piece together fractured memories of a drug-fueled night in the woods, three friends confront guilt, jealousy, and a supernatural presence that threatens to expose their true natures. And we've all been there. We've all been there. Before we get started with Brian, my co-host tonight is the lovely Holly LaFavors. And a couple of reminders, and I'll bring this up again later in the show. If you haven't got your Scarefest tickets yet, Valentine's Day is coming up, and we're running a Valentine's Day special at thescarefest.com. Valentine's special for buy one, get one on 3-day passes. And we're still looking for seminar applications. If you want to talk about anything weird, unusual, seminar applications are still going on. They'll be going on until March 31st. And anybody that follows me on Facebook, my review on Donuts cereal, Donuts, the little donut cereal, they don't suck up milk worth a damn. They're good, but it's like eating cookies. It's like eating cookies that don't absorb milk. So that's pretty much what I got to start the show off. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Everybody, now of course, the Wretch was, we got to premiere it at Scarefest last year. I actually got a couple showings, I guess, during the convention last year. And I didn't get to talk to you, and I didn't get to talk to any of the people that watched it. So, I rented the movie like a good little soldier that I am, although my Netflix, my Amazon membership is like tax deductible. So, but anyway, I rented it because Nick Brown, the producer, gave Holly the free disc. So I need to be prettier. Right off the bat, Brian, I want to ask you, what's a Louisville boy? How's he get into the movie business?
Oh, that's a long answer to an easy question. I just always, the story I always tell is when I was a kid, I could never figure out what I wanted to do for a living. So I figured I would just make movies about all the stuff I wanted to try out, and that way I could do anything I wanted. So that was kind of my idea. And then, when I got into high school, I started, doing my own little short films and things here and there, and then, interned at a production company and kind of learned all that stuff. So, I do commercial stuff as well as film stuff, and it just kind of grew from there. And then one day, my business partner, Matt Niehoff, came to me with a script while we were working at a different company. And he was just like, hey, you want to help me make this? And I was like, sure, why not? I have no idea if we're going to be able to pull this off. But that was overtime. And that was around 2009 is when we started talking about it. And then just kind of once we realized we could make these, make feature films kind of our own way, the ship just kind of sailed from there, and I don't think we're ever going to stop until we're dead. So,
I will tell you that if you continue putting out work as good as Wretch, I think you have I think the word is lustrous career ahead of you. I did enjoy the movie. Everybody, I can tell you this much: it's a supernatural horror thriller type movie. It is not a overly blood and guts movie. It is for the casual horror fan, not you slasher flick people. It is a really, really solid movie. So there's my endorsement. And the way I can judge that, Brian, is that if my wife will not get on her Facebook during the movie, I know that it's a good movie. That's how I judge whether or not it's a.
That's these days. It's hard for me not to get on Facebook during my movie. So thank you very much.
Holly, over to you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. So I was looking on Amazon to see what else you have produced and directed before, and I counted 11 films so far. Is that right?
That is not correct.
They're on Amazon.
There's a lot of Brian Cunninghams out there. So I've actually done, this is my fourth movie. So this is the fourth movie I've had a hand in writing and directing. 3 of those I co-directed with someone, and then this is actually my first solo directorial effort, I guess, though I had really strong producers to help me out with stuff. So
I'm shocked by that. So do you have any on Amazon Prime? Because some were listed on Amazon Prime, and I noticed that one was the one with Al Snow. So
yeah, I think all 3 of them are on Amazon Prime now. So I think Overtime, Monsters Wanted, and Overtime and Monsters Wanted are on Amazon Prime. Loss Prevention, which actually just came out in August, hasn't come out on Amazon Prime. So that one you still have to pay for renting or buying it. Which Loss Prevention movie on Amazon. Check it out.
And have you acted in any of them?
I did a cameo in Overtime. And then I've got a little voice. You'll never be able to find me in Loss Prevention. I dubbed over one of the like a single line of dialogue. But in Overtime, I am at the very end. I'm the guy who invented the Y box back, 9 years ago or 10 years ago now, and about 60 pounds ago. So.
So tell us about your involvement with conventions. Horror conventions and film fests, and we talked about this before we started the show, but can you talk about it again on camera?
Yeah, sure. So I try and get out to Scarefest every year. Sometimes I can't make the whole weekend just because movie and work and all that stuff, but I try and at least come out for a Saturday or Sunday and walk around. I won't. What's funny is like everyone goes to the conventions for the celebrities. I refuse to go see the celebrities because I don't know.
Me too.
It feels really strange to me to pay to meet someone. I don't know.
I've never done that either.
Yeah.
In 12 years, I've never done that. I've never stood in a line either. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So, but I'll walk around. I'll say, hey, I saw John Carpenter. I've now check it off. I've seen them.
Or we saw them at that bar. At the party.
Yeah. So I try to come out to Scarefest. Up until recently, I did Fright Night here in Louisville every single year because that's where we premiered Overtime, and I premiered Monsters Wanted there as well. I don't really do Horror Hound or any of those other ones because I don't have the luxury of traveling too much to go to. I have very little time off between movies and commercial work and stuff like that. So that's kind of what that is. And then Fright Night Fandom Fest here in Louisville. I try and come out to the Lexington Toy and Comic Con whenever I can. So
there's also Days of the Dead in Louisville as well, which is
I should go to that.
Yeah.
I tend to know the festivals I go to. It's usually because I know people involved in them, so that's what gets me in the door. And then I'm a creature of habit and tend to come back over and over year after year. I just love the atmosphere of the festival. It's not. There's no, this person's coming to this festival, so I'll go. It's more just, I love walking the show floor and just, meeting people and seeing all the costumes and things like that.
Yeah, we have our little niche, and I started going to conventions because of Twitter. So I've been on Twitter for many, many years, and so we created this horror family, and then that's how I added someone. They're like, oh, you're going to Scarefest? This was 12 years ago when it all started, and then sooner or later I have so many followers that from all over the world that are into horror, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then Joe Bob Briggs follows me, and he's on Shudder now. So
yeah, I love Joe Bob. I'm a huge Joe Bob fan. Actually, me and Nick, who is Scarefest involved and helped me produce this and produced Wretch, we did the last Joe Bob marathon. We pulled an all-nighter, and we both fell asleep at different points and were poking the other one to stay up, but we managed. We got through all of the. Actually, we did the Thanksgiving one and the Christmas one, so we got through all the Dinners of Death movies, and then we got through all the Phantasm movies, which that's.
So I take it you watched Monster Vision.
I did.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
See, Wes doesn't know what this is because he didn't watch it, and he said not everyone had cable, and I'm like, yes, they did.
Well, it's funny with Monster Vision. It was I just kind of took it for granted. It wasn't I have to sit down and watch it every night. It was always on, and I would just watch it. And then one day it was gone, and I didn't realize how important it was until it was gone. And then it was oh well, that I guess that genre is gone. So when Joe Bob came back, it was super exciting for me.
Yeah, and when I realized that he was John Bloom, the writer, I was shook because I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I love reading I've just recently actually gotten into reading the John Bloom stuff, but I just think he's got a really interesting perspective on things.
Yeah, awesome. So let's see, some more questions. You said
Holly,
that
we need to get to commercial.
Alrighty, commercial.
Remember the talk we had? Everybody, you're watching Scarefest Radio. Everyone is talking about CBD oil. Most of us know that CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant medical benefits, but does not make people high. Its benefits include pain relief, anti-seizure properties, anxiety
CBD
relief,
is good.
fights cancer, reduces the risk of diabetes, and it is even used as a sleep aid. Blue Leaf Naturals CBD and hemp products are full-spectrum hemp extract oils. They use only hemp grown in Kentucky, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses and helping you and your family stay healthy and well. Blue Leaf Naturals, created with care from seed to shelf. Visit their website at blueleafnaturals.com. Blue Leaf Naturals, a Kentucky proud company. And welcome back, everyone, to Scarefest Radio. Before we get going with questions again, I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna give away our Scarefest window decal for the Scarefest. You can't see shit. There, it's kind of vague there. Anyway, I got a really cool picture of it buried somewhere. There it is. That's what it looks like when you actually put it on a window. Now, what we're gonna do is on Twitter, tag at the Scarefest. I'm watching the at the Scarefest Twitter account. I am watching it. This one's gonna be a hard one because you will have had to have seen the movie to win, more than likely. Or yeah, you could have found a spoiler somewhere. I don't know. Name the psychosis that Abby was diagnosed with. They actually dropped a name of a psychosis. Spelling does not count. If you spell it wrong, if I can sound it out, you get it. I'm going to give you till quarter of the hour. I'm going to give you a full 30 minutes to try to win this. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll just do some hashtag and go on. But so if the first person that can tell me the psychosis will get a 3-day pass to the Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, September 13th through 15th, 2019. All right, Brian. Now I'm going to take it for granted here that your genre of choice is horror because of your work so far. Overtime,
Yep,
that was
safe to say.
That was, if I'm not mistaken, that's comedy horror kind of mashup. Is that correct?
Yeah. Overtime is kind of action comedy horror about two hitmen who are going out to do a hit and find themselves stuck in a lab filled with zombie aliens. So
there's a lot of ground to cover there. That's a lot of ground. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Now tell me the truth though. When you started the movie, did you mean for it to be a comedy? Yes, okay. That one I did. If people find Wretch funny, we've probably got a problem. No. Okay. I don't think there was a damn thing funny in that movie. I will say
there's
that.
one joke. I think there's one joke in Wretch. I mean, the whole point of the movie was to kind of try and build a sense of dread and tension and, really focus on characters. So it was very different than Overtime, which was just, Al and John making jokes all the time. So it's funny because it's like, my genre of choice is horror, but I don't think you can find two movies in that genre more different than Overtime and Wretch. So, I try and do, kind of enjoy all the subgenres. And then there's Monsters Wanted, which is a documentary about a haunted house. So, it's still horror, but it's, a completely different genre at the same time. So that's kind of fun for me to just find different types of movies to make, but still bring those horror elements into them. Now, the two follow-ups to that are, first of all, now is that where you're planning on staying? Is this? I mean, do you see yourself spreading out into other genres, or is horror where you really, is that your passion that you want to just keep getting better and better at that? Horror is definitely my passion. I'm not going to say I would never do another type of movie, but I think I would always come back, if that makes sense. So. Like the next movie I'm working on is based on a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe stories. So it's very It's very moody, atmospheric. It's all about, there's a lot of, dense language in it and, kind of, that kind of stuff. So again, it's something totally different, but still in the horror genre. And then we made Loss Prevention, which was a straight up action comedy movie, which was more in the vein of Overtime without those horror elements. So, I think if a story hits me that I think is really cool, that I want to explore, I'll definitely do something outside of horror, but I don't think there will ever be a day where I'm not writing or working on some kind of horror movie, because I just love the genre way too much.
So the other natural follow-up to that is, it sounds like such an idiot question. What is it about horror that you love? And I'm actually going to reframe that in, what is it about the type of horror that you're working on? In other words, is it more about, are you trying to get the reaction, or is it your own gut reaction when you're working on it?
I think for me, it's just it's the one genre where there aren't any rules. You can make any kind of movie. There's romantic horror, there's dark horror, there's funny horror. And people tend to not take it so seriously as if you're making a drama or even a comedy. If it's a comedy, it's like you have to have a laugh every 90 seconds. If it's a drama, it must be, really dense and complete. With horror, you can break rules. That's kind of what the genre was designed for, was, hey, you can deal with any topic, dark or light. You can deal with any characters that you want to do. You don't have to have likable characters. You can have monsters. You can do, really in horror, you can do anything else you can do in any other genre. You've just got to, add some blood and gore, and you're good to go.
And one last question, and this is specific to this movie, and this actually comes from my wife. The name of the movie, Wretch.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, now my take on it was that is essentially framed around the main character, Caleb. Am I wrong, or did you have something else in mind?
You are not wrong, but I think that word just seemed to kind of, I can't give anything away in this movie. That's the hard part about talking about it. But once you get to the end, that word has a few different meanings, especially if you think about it, as the word wretch, spelled W-R-E-T-C-H, and R-E-T-C-H, have two different meanings that both kind of apply to the movie. And then also, I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying this movie is about damaged people, and it's about people who are hurting each other. It's about people who are not in good situations in their life. So, in some ways, you could argue that most of the characters in this movie are, fit that description. Caleb, much more aggressively, I guess, than the other characters. But yeah, I think it just seemed like a word that fit with all of the themes and everything that was going on in the movie.
Holly, over to you.
Over to me. I actually still have some more questions about your filmmaking and why you wanted to keep it local. Why you don't want to branch out yet, or why you haven't?
Yeah. Well, I love Louisville. I love Kentucky. I like making movies here. I've been in a unique situation where I've been able to build the infrastructure to do commercial work, where, I have all the toys. We own a studio in Louisville. We know a lot of local actors. So for me, it's either to make that jump to, doing movies outside of the state. I've worked on a couple of movies where it's, $500,000 or $1 million budgets, and they're trying to get it done in 12 days with a crew, and they're flying actors in. And the process of making those movies sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes can just be miserable, because it's just get it done, get it out the door. And with Wretch especially, it was really nice to be able to go, hey, let's shoot this when we can. If a scene's not working, let's sit down and take an extra 3 hours and figure out how to make the scene work. That's something you can't really do if you're doing movies, where you're bringing in disparate people from different states, and, you're tied into, the way movies are supposed to be made.
So how long did it take you to film this one?
This one we shot over, I guess it was 3.5 months.
And was it last year?
2 years ago.
Okay.
So 2016. This time, 2016. So yeah, and we wouldn't shoot all the time then. Would be, you know, we'd do a 3-day stint and then take 4 or 5 days off. Often I'd rewrite stuff or rework things and then come back. We'd do, you know, we'd reshoot some things. We'd, you know, just keep playing with it. Everyone was local, so I could just call them up and be like, hey, Saturday, let's go out to the park and we're going to get this shot. We're going to do this. We're going to play around with this idea. So that was a really fun way to work, which, you know, these movies are not, you know, I'm not making millions of dollars off of them. So part of the joy of it is also the process of making them and enjoying, you know, being creative with the actors and the crew members and the producers and all that stuff. So
do you have a future endeavor to go past indie filmmaking?
I don't know. It depends on what you call indie filmmaking. Like, I would love to continue to up the budgets of stuff. And there's a few projects I'm working on that I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and go find outside money and, you know, pre-sell things and, you know, all that crappy movie stuff you've got to do if you want to make movies. But I don't know that I want to go, you know, I enjoy controlling projects. You know, I enjoy being able to have that strong creative input. So I don't know that I'd want to be like a gun for hire, you know, from a studio bringing me in to work on something. That's not really what I'm into. So, you know, if someone's like, hey, take $5 million and go make whatever movie you want, I'm not going to say no to that. But I'm also not going to, you know, try and, you know, get a job producing someone else's script that I'm not passionate about. That's just not really what I'm into.
Gotcha. So, have you ever thought about, do you sell or like rent your movies to Redbox?
Redbox is a tough pitch these days. So
okay.
We had a distributor who wanted to take the movies and pitch them to Redbox. We ended up going with a different distributor. But it's just they have such limited space in their boxes that you know, it all depends on. I mean, film distribution is a game of relationships, and you know, it's also money. So you know, the bigger budget movies are going to get in there first. I'd love to have the movies in Redbox. I would not be against that. At the same time, I think the physical media world is kind of dying a little bit. And it's really expensive to, you know, like if I want to do it myself, pressing my own discs is going to be rough, which I actually did on Monsters Wanted. We did our own DVD and Blu-ray release. And
wow.
Yeah, so that's a whole other game. I love the digital stuff because it's like I can go through an aggregator, get it on all these digital platforms, and then just sit back and not have to worry about, you know, packaging and shipping and all that stuff.
Right. Is it time for a commercial, Wes?
It certainly can be. 1 minute early. Way to go, Holly. Everybody, You're watching Scarefest Radio. We'll be right back after this message. Do you feel lost in life? Do you seem to be stuck in emotions that are not yours? Is your home not the sanctuary it should be? Contact Spirit Mechanics, where they take a team approach to your metaphysical and spiritual problems. Spirit Mechanics specializes in aura cleansing, stone attunement, attachment removal, and house cleansings. Spirit Mechanics tailors their approach to your individual spiritual path and needs. Find them every month at Lexington, Kentucky's Mystical Fair, mysticalfairlex.com, or on Facebook by searching Spirit Mechanics, that's MECHANIX. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being. And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Radio. Our guest tonight is Brian Cunningham, Thoughtfly Films, and the writer-director of the movie, fresh out on all of the video platforms, Wretch. okay, before I get back to Brian though, nobody has won our really cool window decal. You can throw the damn thing away if you don't like it. But I'm just saying, I'll even give you a hint. The psychosis is basically, I think, not only. Well, let me ask Brian. Brian, now this is not a spoiler. This is, did you pick the psychosis and then build I'll call it the antagonist, although in this movie I think everybody's their own antagonist.
That's a very good way to put it.
But did you base the antagonist, the behind the scenes antagonist of the movie, on the psychosis, or did you just happen to luck into the psychosis after you picked your antagonist?
It was after I had already. How do I give this away without ruining your competition? So the creature that we have in the movie was chosen pretty early on because I felt like it was a creature that's been underdeveloped in movies and had a lot of elements to it that haven't really been explored. There's a lot of elements of greed and elements of, I don't know how else I can talk about this. But so the creature was there first, and then in researching that, way too much is where a lot of the other elements came out of it, and then we settled on. We didn't really want to hit you over the head with what this was, so that psychosis is actually the only mention of that creature in the entire movie, so that it's not, it's not too, I didn't want to have the microfiche scene where the actors, start looking up all this stuff and figuring things out. That was a little cheesy for me. So.
Okay. Now, honestly, and I think this would have saved you, and this, once again, it's not a real spoiler, but I will tell you that I think you could have saved yourself probably a couple $100 on effects. I don't think when we finally get the full reveal at the end of the movie of the antagonist, I don't think we needed that. I think you had teased it so well up until that point. It was almost like if they in everybody's favorite horror movie, Bird Box, if they actually had shot a scene of the creature, and they realized it didn't add anything to the movie. They didn't use it, and that was the best decision they ever made, from what I've heard. And I think that's my one criticism of the movie. I don't think you needed that, and like I said, it probably saved you a couple $100 on makeup.
Well, it's tricky because it's it's always a back and forth about you talked about Bird Box. Bird Box was about not seeing it. And I think that was a brilliant choice for that movie. For us, it was, how do you pay this off without making it too much of a reveal? So I think if you really look at it, when you see the monster, all told, I think I counted it up once, you're seeing about 18 frames of the monster when, in close up, where you actually reveal it.
Right.
Hopefully and we played back and forth. I had longer cuts where we saw more. It looked gorgeous. I mean, it was a beautiful creation that the guys over at Asylum Props did. But, it was just that back and forth between, I guess the reason we needed to reveal it for us was revealing it to those characters was that moment that pushed them over the edge. So that was why it was important that the audience saw it too, so that you knew that these characters were seeing this entity intimately. So that was kind of that choice. That's it's always tricky though to figure out how much you want to show the monster, how much you don't, and what's going to be most effective to people.
You'll notice that I do not have an IMDb page, so don't take my criticism to heart, because I'm not exactly a movie producer. But me, actually, Holly, that was something we talked about, Holly and I did, was whether or not, to dumb it down, whether or not it was all in their heads or whether it was a real creature. And up until those 18 frames you're talking about, the antagonist had always been this blurry, out of focus, in the background, you know, could have been real, could have not been real, could have just been their imagination. At that point, I think that it took it out of the imaginary thing.
Well, but remember, what you're seeing there is Abby has described it. So if it is a psychosis, if it is in their heads, what you're seeing and what they're seeing is spot on what's already been described.
True.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
already in their heads. So that was why I felt like we could kind of get away with that without over answering that question, was because she's put that in their heads. I don't think that really necessarily means that the monster is or isn't real. I think it's very real to them.
You could have saved a couple $100, dude. That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now one more question, and this kind of applies more to the beginning of the movie, because now one of the I don't know if it was a review or a teaser or what I saw, but it was compared to the Blair Witch Project, because in the beginning of the movie it looks like we're going to be sitting there watching one of these found footage type things, and then but you quickly moved off of that into a mixture of, the word is not real time, Wesley. I don't know there's a director's term, I'm sure, of in other words, you've got your found footage type, shot with a camera, date stamp, everything. Then you've got your and no, I can't even bring that up because I'll just tell you, the main dude in the movie, creepy as hell, everybody. And so part of the footage is his. There, that's kind of a teaser, kind of a giveaway. But then you've got some that is obviously, you know, it had to be shot to fill the storylines in. You mentioned earlier sometimes about rewrites and stuff. I was wondering, did the final product, as far as the way the storyline went, not details, but the storyline went, did that vision carry from beginning to end, or after you started shooting, you said, no, we got to do it this way?
No, that was pretty much there from the very beginning. And what's funny is we shot all of these scenes as I had it written. And then when we got into the edit, I started, I mean, there's probably 10 cuts of this movie that, because it's nonlinear, we actually moved stuff around and started with different scenes and, you know, revealed information differently. And we did 10 cuts of the movie and sat down and watched them all. And the funny thing is, in the end, the cut that we wound up with is almost identical structurally to the script, which made me feel good. It's like, oh, I made good choices, I guess, in writing it and when to reveal information. But yeah, that was always, I mean, that was actually kind of the nugget that got me interested in doing it, was what if you did a found footage movie that is not at all a found footage movie? You know, a movie that starts out found footage and has every single cliche of that genre in the first 20 minutes, but then you realize that you're not watching what you thought you were. So that was kind of the premise of what the movie was. And then from that comes all the themes of, like, you know, who's watching who's filming at any given point. Is this found footage or is it not? That's why, you know, even though we shot with really crappy cameras and we shot with really nice cameras, and in the end, I ended up bringing them to about the same quality level, so that you guys were never, you know, when you watch it, you're never quite sure exactly whether you're watching the movie or whether you're watching found footage or whether someone's spying on someone. And it just creates a real sense of uncertainty, which I think mimics what the characters are going through. And then also kind of mirrors where they are psychologically, where things are starting to unravel more and more as the movie goes on. So that was the idea behind it, is to really play with perspective and who are we really, what viewpoint are we really watching this movie from, was something that I was really interested in.
Yeah, because even the shots that are obviously not found footage type, because there's no way there'd be a camera there. Right. Even those shots are shot always, I know that's one thing I picked up on, they're always shot at this, I don't want to say awkward angle, because that just sounds like you were trying to make it hard for people to watch, but they were shot at unusual angles, like as a viewer, we always felt like we were kind of on the outside looking in. They were all very
what's the word? Now I'm blanking on the word.
I would say voyeuristic. I almost want to use the word voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Everything's long lens. I try to shoot through doorways a lot, around corners. There's a lot of high angle stuff, like security camera style, whether, and sometimes that is a security camera, sometimes it's not. And then at a certain point, that question becomes almost a plot point in the movie, and a reveal of what's really happening. So, it was always kind of intended to make you wonder, okay, is this just a movie shot? Is this someone watching? Or is this, them actually filming? So that you had to really consider what's going on. And I think it adds that sense of paranoia that the characters are feeling. Hopefully the audience kind of is in on that, trying to think through what they're seeing.
Holly, over to you.
Yes. Okay, well, yes, I would agree with you because I did like seeing the creature in the movie. I'm actually a licensed therapist, and so I really liked the character development and what I was seeing and what they were seeing, because I have seen that in clients before. So that's how I took the film, and I really love psychological horror. That's my favorite genre. So I have a question. There is a character named Riker. Is there a reason why he plays himself?
Yes. And that's, so names in movies are always tricky. And so when I sat down to write this one, Riker is actually an actor that was working in a haunted house that I was managing. So when I sat down to write the movie, I just really liked the name. It was strange. It kind of had an edge to it. That was a little off. So I wrote that character as Riker with no intention of casting Riker as the character. And then when it came time to cast, we just did an open casting call, and we had a bunch of actors come in. And he sat down and read with Spencer, who he's actually friends with. And that animosity between the two of them was just so, they knew each other really well, so they were able to play that really well. Just this, that friend that you're always smiling around and hanging out with, but there's this jealousy, anger, things right under the surface getting ready to boil up. He was able to do that so well that I had a moment. I was like, am I really going to cast Riker as Riker? And I even thought about changing the name of the character. But in the end, it's Riker, and he's playing a character very different than himself. But that's how it's stuck.
So there is, I'm just going to be blunt. There's nudity in the movie, quite a lot through it. Were the actors comfortable, uncomfortable, anything?
I worked really hard to make them as comfortable as possible. I think that they, it's really awkward. Having nudity on set and sex on set is the most awkward thing. So for this one, it was very, talking to them about, we had a lot of conversations about how these scenes tie into the story, and I do think it's very important that we not shy away from them, because, it's about damage, and, there's a through line of how do I not give away of people mistreating each other, and sex is a big part of that.
Yes, that is one of the themes in the movie.
Yes. So, we had those conversations. I feel like everyone felt really safe on set, and felt good about it when we were doing it. But, it's always that awkward thing. Once all the actors saw the movie, they did kind of go, okay, I understand. That was really important what we were doing. I don't feel like there's anything gratuitous about any of the sex or nudity in the movie. And actually, a lot of it is hard to watch for me, because it's not that 80s slasher movie fun sexuality. It's real sexuality that's very complicated and difficult. So.
All right. That was deep.
Sorry.
A deep question. So, we have 15 minutes left of the show, actually. So I think we have another commercial, Wes.
We do. Holly, you're getting good at this. Everybody, you're watching Scarefest Radio.
Coyote Chris Sutton.
Shamanism.
Spiritual advisement.
Paranormal investigations.
Inspirational presentations.
Bringing light to the darkest places for over 20 years. Go to coyotechris.com to learn more. And we're back with our final segment of Scarefest Radio for the evening. Brian Cunningham is our guest, writer and director of the movie fresh out on streaming video, Wretch. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Scarefest people. Y'all, I'm going to use the word. Y'all are a bunch of pussies. Not a single person has that did not stick in anybody's mind. I'm upping the ante. If we can do this by the end of the show, if anybody will send a message to @the_Scarefest with the name of the psychosis, I'm going to give you this decal and a 3-day pass. I think one time I might have announced it wrong. Decal plus 3-day pass to Scarefest 2019. That you get both. One by email, and I'll have to mail the decal, of course. Brian, now here's a little technical question because that's the kind of guy I am. The symbol that's used throughout the movie. Now, this is not a spoiler because it's all over the frickin' previews and the poster. Is that a real symbol? Is that something you pulled out of your butt? Just to tell us that.
That is, as far as I know, it's not a real symbol. There's actually a notebook I've got sitting around here somewhere. I just sat and doodled hundreds of symbols trying to find something that seemed right for what we were doing. And it's weird that something that small becomes really tricky because, like, if you think about it, the symbol A has to be instantly recognizable. It has to be unique so it doesn't stand out for anything else, you know. So at one point we were doing stars and I was like, that just looks too much like, you know, satanic symbolism or, you know, protecting symbolism or whatever. And then the other thing that was difficult was it had to be a symbol that Abby could draw easily. So she could draw it over and over and over again because that's a part of it. So after doing a bunch of different symbols, that was kind of the one we landed on. And it was also my favorite because thematically it, you know, the spiral that just, you know, keeps going and then, you know, ends with a line straight down kind of typifies the movie if you think about it a little bit.
See, now I missed that symbology. I just thought I think it was a good symbol. I thought it was all the things you said right up until the spiral thing, which totally just I missed. But it did look like the type of symbol that would be associated with the folklore behind the antagonist. How was that for not giving a spoiler away?
Yes, that is very good. And I want to know because I just watched the Pet Sematary trailer that just came out. And they have spirals on trees in that trailer, and they're talking about a monster in the woods. So I want to know if that's in the book, because I've never read the book, or if that's just this crazy coincidence between our two movies that we both have monsters in the woods and we both have spirals. So,
in other words, he's going to sue your ass.
I can't imagine how they could have seen this before they started production, but I think it's just weird happenstance things.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to back you way up to early in the interview. You're 35 years old, borderline overachiever in my humble opinion. But I want to tell you, this whole ideology, this wide-eyed ideology about how you want to be an independent filmmaker. When you get older, you'll get more jaded like me, and you'll take anything they throw at you. You'll do it. You'll do it, dude.
Oh, I'm not saying I won't take cash to make a movie, but I'm not gonna. That's not something I'm gonna pursue. And that's kind of, I do commercials a lot too. So there's a lot of times that I get handed a script and it's okay. Here's your budget, go make it on small stuff. So I know what that feels like. Let me put it this way. I might do other work for that, but I don't think I'm ever going to stop making, these smaller movies that kind of control it, if that makes sense.
That's
like,
a beautiful sentiment.
Regardless.
Beautiful, beautiful sentiment. Holly, I'm going to throw it over to you for just one or two more questions, and I've got some little business things that we got to do for Scarefest to finish up, but I'll give it to you for just a moment.
All right. My next question is, about the filming locations. Was it all filmed in Kentucky? Like, where was the hospital, the woods? And the only scene I recognized was the National Cemetery, which I think is the big one in Louisville.
Yeah. The woods was actually out at the Asylum Haunted Screen Park, which is where the documentary Monsters Wanted was shot. So we actually shot in their woods, which is also where they made the monster. So that was convenient because the monster was right there, 500 yards offset for the guy coming out to play the monster. The cemetery was Cave Hill, but it's actually shot in a park, and the cemetery is behind them from that park. And that was just a nice little, something I saw one day and decided to work it into it. Everything was in Louisville. The two houses were actually the houses of crew members. One of them was my house, the house where the first scene happens, where Abby's out back. That's actually my house. So it's all Louisville based. The hospital was actually a nursing home. So, we found a privately owned nursing home that let us come out and film. And that was fantastic because we were at this nursing home, and the tenants of the nursing home actually started talking about how much they like horror movies. So they were coming back to get pictures taken with the monster while he was there. And then I'll remember I was loading gear in and out, and I heard two elderly ladies debating what their favorite horror movie was. I think it was between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and So it was just really fun because they were really into shooting the movie. We obviously couldn't shut down a hospital, so 5 feet off to the right on every shot there is an elderly man or woman just watching, really excited. So it was really fun to kind of shoot.
Wow. So did the actor that plays Abby, did she have to study or look up the diagnosis that she's diagnosed with in the movie?
I don't think she ever did. And I never really pushed that because, in my opinion, watching the movie, it's a misdiagnosis. It's not, that psychosis that she's got is not really where it is. We did have a lot of discussions about, there was some discussions about PTSD and some stuff about, I'm blanking for some reason. Just different mental disorders that may have been going on, especially with Riker, because that's very clearly, he's got a lot of elements of schizophrenia there. So we talked about that stuff. But I don't want to give it away. The psychosis is something that I did a lot of research on it, and it's a psychosis that exists, but it's kind of been discredited as, what we say in the movie is true. It's a very specific specific cultural manifestation of, delusions and schizophrenia. So we kind of leaned more into that than the specific diagnosis.
So, was the creature always played by a character, or was it digitally enhanced?
It was always an actor. There's one shot where I think we did some touch-ups work. It's that close-up, the one close-up shot we've got. We did a little bit of work just to blend, because it was actually a latex mask that we did makeup blending. So we did a tiny little bit of work to blend in the eye sockets and the cheeks and bring out the specific nature of the eyes. So there was just a little bit of touching up there, but mostly that's all the work of the Asylum guys, the Asylum props team that worked on that.
So when I first watched the trailer, I thought, is this like Slender Man? Would you say it's like Slender Man?
I think it's very much like Slender Man. Which actually, that was where the first concept of it came. I did Asylum actually does this thing called the Slender Man live action experience. So I actually did a trailer to kind of push that. And then I was like, oh, that's a creepy idea, this thing that's just out in the woods. And I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do? I want to do something in the woods, but then tying it in with what the monster actually is and my interest in that, and just kind of blending these mythologies, I thought was kind of fun. So yeah, there's a lot of Slenderman elements to it. Just that creepy, it's out there coming for you. There's no way to get away from it. So yeah, that was intentional. I hope I didn't rip it off too badly, but if I did,
I thought it was more like how I tweeted you about the movie It Follows, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, actually. And so, have you seen It Follows as well?
Yeah, it's very It Follows, just that unrelenting, getting closer and closer monster. I think that's,
And some M. Night Shyamalan movies like Split and The Village.
Yeah.
Glass.
There's a little bit of that in there too. There's trying to keep the nature of the monster under wraps as long as possible was something we talked about a lot when we were making it.
So we do not have much time left. We have about 5 minutes. Would you like to do some social media plugs right now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So the movie is Wretch, and it's you can get us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/WretchMovie. Twitter, we're Wretch Movie. And then we're on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Vudu. We're on PlayStation, Comcast, a bunch of other places. So just search for it. If you go to wretchmovie.com, there will be a list of all the places you can buy. So we're out for rental on a few places and to buy. So please support indie films. This is a 100% self-funded movie. So I'd like to make my money back. Please buy the movie.
I did my part.
Back to you.
I did my part.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to finish up here with some business. And Sherry Horkick is in the chat room trying desperately to remember what the psychosis was. Because I told her if she can come up with it, I'll give her the prize. Everybody. ScarefestRadio.com. We are doing movie reviews now. We're putting up a news page once a week about stuff in the horror industry. And Sherry, it's not at the beginning of the movie. It's about dead center of the movie. So I'm giving you another hint. But anyway, and Holly is dedicated because she got the free copy. She has to write the review of Wretch. So that'll be hopefully up there in the next week. Blood Types, the Scarefest Literary Journal, is returning. Now, we're not going to do a new issue this year, but this was a very popular project. You can read all about it on ScarefestRadio.com if you're not sure what I'm talking about. But basically, it's a collection of short stories written by fans of the Scarefest, and it rocked, and it was a success, and it got lost in the transition from the old ownership to the new ownership. But we're bringing it back. But in the meantime, we are publishing story by story, week by week. The original Scarefest Literary Journal, Blood Types, will be online. So if you want to read that, we've got that content going up. And tomorrow there will be a fresh, really bad tarot reading. I've already done the tarot reading. I've scheduled it for tomorrow because it's about Valentine's. Speaking of Valentine's, everybody. Now this is there's our banner. Put my beautiful banner up that I did. Buy one, get one free 3-day pass to the Scarefest through Valentine's Day. Now, we left the Christmas one up, so this but now this is coming down because you know why? You know why it's coming down, people? Because they put me in charge of it. So when Valentine's Day gets here, it's done, and we're going to move on to something else, and you're not going to get your buy one, get one for a while. So if this is a perfect Valentine's Day gift for the horror fan in your life. And finally, I want to remind everybody, we're in the final countdown for getting seminar speakers and presenters at the Scarefest. You've got till the end of March to apply. The more weird your topic, the more assured you are of being accepted to speak at the Scarefest this year. We're short a room or two. We're not going to have as many speakers, more than likely. We just don't have the space for them because of the remodeling at the convention center. So, if you want to present something, if you want to get your name out there in front of roughly 15 15,000 people. Here's your chance. Get your applications in. They're wanting to get all that nailed down. That's the word I'm looking for. So, this has been Scarefest Radio. I think we found out some good stuff, Brian, about the movie, about you, and I don't think we gave anything away.
A tough movie to talk about. So, yeah, so if you want to go watch the movie, and you can jump on Facebook or Twitter and talk to me about it, when we'll talk about all the stuff with spoilers. So, totally fine to do that too.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Bye.